everybody. This is Calvin Kerner with JFW Industries. I'd like to talk to you today about our GUI Script Manager feature of the latest revision to the Programmable Attenuator Assembly test software. But before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about what scripts are and why they're important, and how commands are transmitted and processed in a JFW test system. So first of all, the host PC that is sending the commands, the one that's running your test software, it sends it to the test system, and the commands go into the receive buffer. This receive buffer has a maximum length of 1200 characters. And so for example, your set attenuator 1 to 63 dB right here, this is 6 characters long. So you could really send this command 200 times before the buffer is full. But thankfully, as a command is received, as the processor detects that there's a command in the buffer, it pulls it out, deletes it to make room for new commands. And while it pulls it out, it is processing it, doing some error checking, and then finally executes it. So this idea of the buffer can really be represented in two different forms. There's the physical buffer, which has a 1200 character maximum length, but then there's also this concept of time and the amount of time that it takes to process the commands. Most of our commands are time independent. They're mostly going to be 3 milliseconds to process. Set attenuator with response, set all attenuators, set multiple attenuators, read attenuator, and read all attenuators. All of these take about 3 milliseconds to process. The time-dependent commands like the pause and the fade and the variable handover, they all have a portion. Their syntax basically dictates that you have to send some kind of a time variable, and that determines how long the command takes to process. And in scripts, when you're trying to run a test and you want it to basically do all of these commands, well, you want to have control of the time, because maybe you want an attenuator to stay at a certain value for a set amount of time until it changes to the next value and processes the next command. So that's the idea. But if your time-dependent commands are too long and it gets stuck in here while they're executing, if you send too many commands after it, that is when you run the risk of overflowing this 1200 character limit buffer. Okay? Just to finish our examples here, we also have, so set attenuator was 6 characters long and takes 3 milliseconds. The set multiple attenuator command in this example is 19 characters long and takes 3 milliseconds. And that's kind of important too when you start thinking about efficiency in processing time. Rather than sending this command, the set attenuator command, 4 times, you could just send a set multiple attenuator command once. It would still take the same amount of time. And then we have the pause command. Pause for 50 seconds is 8 characters long, but it takes 50,003 milliseconds to process. And that extra 3 milliseconds, that's just added on there because of the amount of time it takes to process all commands. And variable handover example here, 23 characters long, takes 6.3 seconds approximately. So let me combine these two representations of the buffer into just one. And this tubular representation, it's not drawn to scale here, so don't get confused by that. But in this example, we're setting attenuator 1 to 63. Then if we want to set attenuator 1 to 0 directly after it, it would look like this. Okay. But as I said before, oftentimes you want to put a pause in between those two. So in that case, we put this pause in here, and then the total duration for this script, which we're going to call script 1, is 59 milliseconds. You have 3 here, 53 here, and 3 here. And the action will be set attenuator to 63, pause for 50 milliseconds, then set it to 0. Okay? So let's take that script and just combine it all into one block. Right here, script 1 is 59 milliseconds. But now, let's say we want to send that script 3 times. So we're going to send this script, just these 3 lines of code here, these 3 commands, we're going to send that 3 times, and it's going to take 177 milliseconds. And then this will be the action. Okay? And that is what we're trying to get at with the script manager. We're making an assumption that the scripts that you're sending are repetitive and that they have some pattern to it that's recurring. So rather than send the entire script all at once at time t equals 0, like we forced you to do before with a Telnet service like Hyperterminal, rather than having to do that, you can break up your script into smaller chunks that are all the same and send one at time t equals 0, another one at time t equals 0 plus 59 milliseconds, and so on. And that is exactly what Script Manager does. So let's go into that now. So here we are, the Script Manager window. And the main part of it is the script to send window here. This is where I can type all my commands. So attenuator 1 to 63. Then we pause for 50 milliseconds, and then we set attenuator 1 to 0. And we already know how long this takes. It's that 59 milliseconds, but in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, we have the Calculate Script Duration button. So we click that. There's our 59 milliseconds. It also counts how many total commands there are and how many total characters are in the entire script. And from here, in our example, we were sending this 3 times. And we can also use this duration like we did in our example where we want to send it one right after the other. So let's send that. Okay, it's pretty fast. So to illustrate that better, I'm going to go ahead and change this to 3000 milliseconds or 3 seconds and send it. Okay? And we can also, let's use that duration again and send it indefinitely. So now we're sending these 3 commands over and over again once every 59 milliseconds. And we've already sent it 200 times. Okay? Other features. I don't have this connected to a JFW test system right now, otherwise we'd be getting some data received in our data received window here. But if we did have some data there and we wanted to keep that for whatever reason, we do have this save results, and you can change the text file here, and that'll just save whatever's in this window into a text file. We also give you some saving and loading utility. If you wanted to save this script for a later time, you can either overwrite or assign a new one. Since this isn't lit up here, there's no script 3, but let's overwrite script 2 in this case. So we do that, close it, and reopen it, and now we can load it again, and there it is. Okay, so that's helpful. And then finally we have this record script feature, which is pretty neat, because if you don't have the JFW command format memorized like I do, since I work with it on a daily basis, you can click the record script button, and then anything else you do in the test program shows up in this window. And you can still type in it. And you can also use GUI indefinite handover and any other feature. Okay, so there's all those commands that were just sent. And when this checkbox is checked, you're no longer sending commands to the test system. Now anytime the test program is used, it's sent into this window. So you would have to uncheck that to be able to send commands afterwards. Okay, let's calculate that again. I want to mention one more thing. So the idea is we want to make sure that this number is never less than this number, because then we're forcing it to send it faster than the commands can be processed, and we run the risk of overflowing the buffer. However, in this case though, we can really do that. If we wanted to send this script once every 10 milliseconds, in this case it actually would work. And I say that because what we're asking it to do is we're asking it to send 125 characters 5 times, and that is less than our 1200 character limit. So in this case it wouldn't have an issue. However, if we change this to 50, now we are forcing it and we run the risk of overflowing the buffer. So hopefully that gives you answers some question about scripts you may have had, and hopefully those of you that have used scripts in the past can see how this would be very helpful to you. This feature is brand new, so please send any feedback you have or suggestions or comments or questions to us, and we'd be happy to look at helping you out there. You can send any emails to jfwengr@jfwindustries.com. Alright, thanks for watching.